ओम जयति जगति मायां यस्य कायादवस्ते वचन रचनमेकं केवलं चाकलय्य ध्रुवपदमपि यातो यत्कृपातो ध्रुवोऽयं सकलकुशलपात्रं ब्रह्मपुत्रं नतोऽस्मि. We are trying to listen to Narada, seeking fulfillment of life, believing that it will come through bhakti, and to learn what is real bhakti. Because our bhakti as of today is not yielding that result. We require guidance, and we know Narada will surely guide us as he has guided Dhruva and Prahlad and innumerable others. It requires a change in us. We shall learn from Narada what changes have to come, and we are ready to change ourselves. In the very beginning, Narada told us in the first sutra that he is going to expound bhakti on behalf of several acharyas who are of the one opinion, he says, apart from the prattle of the common people. And bhakti is highest place for God in our life, and the pull for him, that is bhakti ordinarily. Now, what is inside that? What is the real bhakti? We should be derived from not any human brain or mind, but from the very nature of God. And so, in the second sutra, he says, Sadhu. First sutra, let me read again. Athato bhaktim vyakyasyama. Second sutra, he says, Sadhu. Asmin parama prema rupa. And a Pathaved Kasmin was suggested, and we have seen that Kasmin is included in Asmin, while Asmin is not necessarily included in Kasmin. Asmin means towards the innermost reality. Kasmin means to the blissful God, who is our innermost reality. So, the speciality of Narad Bhakti is this, but he says, keep aside your ideas of Bhakti, don't mix them. Listen to the correct idea of Bhakti, and then later on, I repeat, from Sutra 56 onwards, he will take into consideration all the different bhaktis which are in the world. And from there, how to come to the main road. Narada's bhakti is the main road, and all other bhaktis are on the side track. That he will deal with after Sutra 56, from Sutra 56. So now, to tell us the distinctive marks of Narad Bhakti, he says, first of all, it is about the innermost reality. And innermost reality is not a circumscribing the reality. Innermost is also outer also. Innermost, but it is very near us. That is the meaning of the innermost. We may be traveling outside. We may be traveling in the world. We may be traveling in the body. We may be traveling in our senses. We may be traveling in our mind. We may be stuck up to our eye consciousness. But inside, and inside, that is the place of one reality. Call it Atman or Brahman or Ishvara. Narada has not given any name here, we remember. He has simply said the innermost reality. What is the innermost? Reality is the word we are adding. So he has not given any particular name, not Krishna or Shiva or Rama, innermost reality. And it appears as a pull towards that innermost reality, such a strong pull that it will make us transcend all the obstacles in the path. And the obstacles, as we have seen again and again, are only I and mine, me and mine, and everything derived from them. Nothing outside is an obstruction, no man, no circumstances. All the obstructions are from me and mine and their derivatives. Whatever we think, like envy, jealousy and all that, that is nothing but me and mine. So, this love will be so strong that it will help us or make us transcend all the obstacles and bhakti, the self-centripetence will stand up. Reality pulling the shadows towards itself. Then, in the third sutra, so he has said it will appear like the pull which is strong. If it appears like the pull, then what is its real nature? That becomes our question. And so in the third sutra it tells Amrita Swarupa cha. That means this pull is real. It appears as a pull. Appear does not mean here like illusion of Vedanta or superimposition. It is the form which the bhakti takes. We experience it, that is the meaning of appearance. We experience it as the strongest pull toward the innermost reality. But in its own nature, here I use the word but, he has not used. And he has said and. We experience it as pull to the innermost reality, and its own real nature is that it is Amrita. And to search for the meaning of this word Amrita, we went to Chandogya where Narada learned his trade, his jnana, from his guru Sanat Kumar. And there Sanat Kumar has called the reality as Bhuma, meaning infinite. And he says that Bhuma eva Amritam, yad alpam tad martyam. Whatever is infinite is immortal, whatever is finite is mortal. And also he has said, Bhumaiva sukham, nalpe sukham asti. In the infinite alone is happiness, in any finite thing there is no happiness. So, this Amrita means immortality not as a body, but as the very essence of our reality. And also it means the bliss which is purest, not mixed with sorrow and permanent. That is the meaning of Amrita we found. It is a bliss which is not impure, which is not ending in misery or mixed with misery, and it is not temporary, it is permanent. That is the very nature of reality. Reality cannot be described in words, and yet it is described best as existence, knowledge, bliss, Sat Chit and Ananda. Now, this is become too abstract to conceive. So the method Narada is using, we find this method everywhere, even in the Ishopanishad. To tell us about the nature of reality, what they use is what happens to the man who realizes the reality. From that you can understand the nature of the reality. So Narada is now using 3 sutras, 4, 5 and 6 to describe that person. What happens to the person when he realizes this Amrita? So, Yat Labdva, at the end we'll have to add Tat Amritam. Yat Labdva, such and such thing happen, Tat Amritam. In the 5th sutra, Yat Prapya, such and such thing happens, Tad Amritam. In the 6th sutra, Yat Gatva, such and such thing happens, Tad Amritam. In this way, we have to understand the Amritam and then go back to Sutra 2. This Amrita is the Swarup, that Bhakti of which Amrita is the Swarup, which we experience in our experience as the very strong pull towards our innermost reality. So with this introduction or link, now link what has reminded me, please see today's chat. That day I talked about the best English translation by Y. Subramanya Sharma. So a link is given on chat today. PDF is available, so all of you can avail that, those who want English translation. That PDF link is given there. Anyway, So in the fourth sutra it says, Yat labdva puman. Puman means a person who is making effort, but not as a result of that. Like a gift, he gets it. Yat labdva. What he gets? That amrita. Amrita is that by getting which will be the translation. Siddho bhavati. He becomes perfect in every respect. His character is perfect. He has no wants, he has no abhav. He is perfect. And for this, I quoted what Jesus says, be thou perfect even as thy Father in heaven is perfect. So that absolute perfection he gets if he gets this Amrita. That is the nature of Amrita. And Amrita Bhavati. Normally we feel if somebody drinks Amrita, he will become Amar. But by taking this Amrita, he becomes Amrita. He becomes identified with the goal of life. He becomes of the same nature of God, if you like to call it, which Narada has not named. He becomes identified by the very reality which he is seeking. And so, Amrita can also mean divinity, God. So, absolute divinity is absolute perfection. And Tripto Bhavati. His wants, the faculty of wants is gone. He has no wants now throughout his life. So, he is Chiratripta, is satisfied forever. And now, this we read, and then in the fifth we are coming, and that day we read only the first word of the fifth, Yat Prapya. Yat Prapya means achievement. By achieving which he undergoes these changes is that Amrita. And this word is used to tell us this is the highest and the only real achievement in life. So the word is usually Yat Prapya. What happens? Na kinchit vanchati. Nothing he desires. Why man desires anything? To derive some pleasure out of it. And if he has got the happiness which is highest and permanent, why will seek any desire? Why will desire come to him? In the philosophical sense, if he has reached the reality one without a second, why there will be division in his mind of subject and object which leads to desires? So, no desire is the sign of having got that Amrita. Then, na shochati. What is shoka? Sorrow or misery. What is the source of shoka? What is the nature of shoka? Suppose I get money, I do not become money. So, money can go away. Money will be short. So, the gap between the subject and object is the source of shoka. A man desires a wife, he may get a wife. But if she goes away, if somebody steals it, if she changes, if she dies, so the gap between the subject and the object is the very nature of all the sorrow in our life. Now this person, by getting that Amrita, there is no place of shoka in it. As I told you again and again, the difference between subject and object has vanished. He has become the reality one without a second. He has got the joy which is permanent. And so, absolute joy. So, no more desire, no more shock. Both of them mean the division between subject and object is gone in his life. Not dveshti. This is another terrible enemy in life. Something we dislike. Why this dislike comes? Actually, when what we like is obstructed, then this dislike comes. If by seeing some man we feel angry, that means our joy is gone. So, dvesha, when it comes, something has to be separate from us and not desired. Something has to be separate from us and anti-fulfillment of our desire. Something has to be different from us and it may obstruct our joy. This is the reason of dvesha. If nothing is different from us, how will dvesha come? This man, you know, what is the name given to such a person? Ajata Shatru. He does not feel anything in life or world as a Shatru. Let me give an example. There was a great saint. His name people did not know. They called him Pavahari Baba. In Ghazipur in UP, living near the bank of Ganges, what he ate people did not know. So people say he's eating air only, Pavahari Baba. Now a snake came and bit him and he became unconscious. When he came back to consciousness, he said, a messenger has come from my dearest. Snake, messenger from the dearest. So, where is the enmity? Where is the dvesha? No hatred anywhere. Another example which jumps into the mind immediately is supremely revered Holy Mother Sarada Devi. Her last message is supposed to be nobody, not only enemy, nobody is a stranger, everybody is yours. How can everybody be mine? Because everybody is God's and I am also God, so everybody is mine. So, no enmity, no stranger. I will tell a story about Holy Mother, then you will understand. Those were the days of independence movements, especially the boycott movement. Because Britishers had troubled us, they took away our profession of handloom. They took away from India the very profession of handloom, where everybody practically weaved his own cloth and put on, and they introduced the cloth made by the mills. And we were compelled to use all the cloth of the mills. Then when the war broke out, they used all the mills for producing weapons and ammunition required for the war and stopped the production of clothes. And people in Bengal, ladies committed suicide because they had no clothes. That was the situation. So, people led by Gandhi said we will produce our own clothes and the charka, the spinning wheel was made popular. It was there in India, but Britishers had stopped that. So the spinning wheel became popular everywhere. Now Holy Mother had some disciples near her village, near Jarambati, just 2 miles away is the village Koyalpada. And in Koyalpada, everybody in India was filled with that spirit. So the Koyalpada disciples, they started this spinning wheel in their ashram and they collected the mill clothes and made a holy bonfire of that mill clothes. Mother, as soon as she knew that, she called all of them to Jarambati and said, my children, this idea of Swadeshi is excellent. Give me a charka. I will be spinning every day. But my boys, why have you burned clothes made by them? You do not know that they are also my children? So this is the absence of patience. No hatred. And this happens, of course, Holy Mother is an embodiment of that, but this is an example. This happens if we get that Amrita. This can happen only if we get the one without a second reality. And so, to understand Amrita, Narada used this, that when the Dvesha vanishes from your life, then you have got that Amrita. That Amrita, by achieving which people have no further Dvesha. Then, na ramate. This is another important thing of life. If we like something, okay, but when we get stuck up in that, for example, these days in India, cricket. When cricket match comes, everybody is lost into that. And at the other extreme, when a man-woman love is there, he is lost in that. This is called Ramana, Rati, sticking to some joy, refusing to see the other things in the world. Now, if he gets that Amrita, he does not stick to anything in life. Not that he is bereft of joy. He derives joy from everything. About Sri Ramakrishna, Mother has told us that I have never seen him bereft of joy. With old people, with young people, without anybody, he was always joyful. So, this Ramana, or sticking to some joy, is not there. I will describe it in some other way also. You know, an incarnation of God called Avadhuta Dattatreya. You have heard about him? Dattatreya. Dattatreya, Atri's son. Dattam is given by God, is Dattatreya. But his other name is Avadhuta. Washed forever. Washed forever. If you take something, say this paper, and there is some dirt on this paper, if you keep it, it sticks. And if it is washed, it will never stick. So, Avadhuta Datta, like that becomes the character. He is happy with everybody, but it will not stick. Ramate. Now, the last word may be difficult for you to understand. Utsahi Bhavati. Now, Utsahi Bhavati does not mean life having Utsaha every moment. But the meaning of Utsaha here is a tendency in man to seek something new, to seek something strange, to run after new things every day. We are tired or bored of the joy which we get in life, but we want something new. So, this is called Utsaha. Utsaha is the spirit in man to seek something new every day. Or he joins a party, I mean religious party, and after some days he goes to some other party. So this is called Utsaha. Now this man, having achieved his end of life, does not run after strange things, does not run after a joy every day. A joy every day, in the words of my Guruji, is titillation of nerves in different ways. He does not run after that. So not that he has lost the zest of life. He is full of zest. Utsaha can be translated as zest. But he has not lost the zest of life. Zest for seeking new things. Zest for running after strange things. That is not there in his life. Let me quote an example. All these things are known through examples only, not through words in the dictionary. Now, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple Mahapurush Maharaj, though he was a Calcutta man basically, he had not seen the Maidan. You know, those who live in Calcutta, now the Maidan is broken also. But in such a big city, such a vast park or land empty, that was Maidan. Inside Maidan there is a 4 pillar, but otherwise it's a ground. Now the cricket match is there, this is there, that is there, but it was a Maidan. Now, one devotee of his understood when Mahaprabhu was the president of the Ramakrishna Mission, that Mahaprabhu has never seen the Maidan. It appeared as strange to him, and he told Mahaprabhu, I will take you to Maidan and show it, Maharaj. So he brought a horse carriage, he took Mahaprabhu to Maidan. After coming back, he thinks he has done something great. So he asked Maharaj, how did you see Maidan? Maharaj said, there was nothing less in me when I had not seen Maidan. Nothing has been added unto me by seeing the Maidan. That was his reply. So now we understand now Utsahi Bhavati. He has his joy permanently with him. Now we proceed to the 6th sutra. The language is changed. In the 4th sutra, he got it. In the 5th sutra, he achieved it. And in 6th sutra, Yad Gyatva. He knew it. Now, knowledge is not information I have been repeatedly telling. Knowledge is not some conviction. Knowledge is change of our consciousness into the real consciousness. So, Amrita is such that knowing the Amrita, realizing the Amrita, becoming one with the Amrita, knowledge itself is achievement. Achievement is knowledge. Knowledge itself is the highest gift of God. The highest gift of God is knowledge. We are reading Narad Bhakti Sutra, remember, not in the treatise on knowledge. And in this Narada Bhakti Sutra, it tells Amrita is that, knowing which. Knowing which, what happens? Matto bhavati. Intoxicated he becomes. Sri Ramakrishna has used this word many times. Jnanonmatta, premonmatta. That means his consciousness is not our normal consciousness. What we call normal is subnormal, not abnormal. What we call normal in human life is subnormal, below the normal. He is normal. But being so totally different from his behavior may be strange to us. His behavior may be out of this world. His behavior is out of the world. He is intoxicated. He loses himself. That is the first sign, you may say, of achieving that Amrita. The nature of Amrita is such that getting that man becomes intoxicated. Then what happens? How long he will remain that intoxication? Where that intoxication will end? Intoxication comes from union with God. Where it will end? In identification with God. Sabdho bhavati. Sabdho bhavati is a clear description of the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So, intoxication leads to Sabdho bhavati. Now, in this relation, Sabdho bhavati, I will again tell an incident related to Holy Mother. It starts like this. There was a boy, very young, dear devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, very poor financially. After Sri Ramakrishna's Mahasamadhi, some person has given 200 rupees in those days, 200 rupees to this boy for doing some work. And in those days, even today, in some areas, the common vehicle in Calcutta was trams. While traveling by tram, his pocket was picked up and he lost those 200 rupees. When standing near the Ganges and crying to Sri Ramakrishna, Lord, what shall I do? How can I complete that work? And where shall I get 200 rupees? Sri Ramakrishna appears before him. and tells him, my boy, why are you weeping? See that brick? You just lift that brick, we'll get 200 rupees. It happens very strange to him. But when he lifts that brick, there are 200 rupee notes there. So he feels overjoyed. He finishes that work, and out of the joy, he describes this incident to his friend. Now, friend is not ready to believe that Sri Ramakrishna actually appeared and he saw Sri Ramakrishna. So he went to Swami Sardananji, Sri Ramakrishna's dear disciple, to clear his doubt. And said, Maharaj, such and such thing my friend is telling. Is it possible? Can one see Sri Ramakrishna? Sardan Swamiji said, why not? He is a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He is in difficulty. He is crying to him. Why will not see Sri Ramakrishna? But then he adds, but we do not see. Now, instead of getting explanation, this boy is still more puzzled. If a householder devotee or if a boy devotee can see Sri Ramakrishna, why Sardan Swamiji says we cannot see? So out of this puzzle, he went to Holy Mother and first described the same scene and asked the same question, is it possible? She said yes. Same reply she gave. When the boy is Sri Ramakrishna's devotee, when he is in trouble, when he is crying, why he will not see Sri Ramakrishna? He will definitely see. Then this devotee asked, then why Sardan Swamiji says he does not see? Which Holy Mother replied, nobody can delude her. Huh? What he will see? In Bengali I will tell first. Huh? ওরা দেখে শুনে জ্ঞাত হয়ে বসে আছে দেখে শুনে জ্ঞাত হয়ে বসে আছে That means after seeing, hearing, they have become straight. Gnat hoye means like erect they are sitting. You mean this is the Holy Mother's way of telling Nirvikalpa Samadhi? Dekhe shune is on the lower level. And having seen and heard, now they are sitting tight. Gnat means tight. This is what Narada is telling. Intoxication leading to stabdho bhavati. Yeah. Sitting tight, sitting straight. And then, how long he will be in Nirvikal Samadhi? I told you, the state of the mind changes. The knowledge or joy received in that will never change. So then he opens his eyes and sees the world and is happy with the world. He is not seeing the world. He is seeing his Lord everywhere. He is seeing the Lord inside and outside. And so, after Sabda Bhavati comes Atma Ramo Bhavati. Aram is, felicity is in the self. Self which he appears in all. Everywhere he sees this himself. And then his life is fulfilled. So, knowing which, knowing that Amrita is such that knowing it, the man becomes intoxicated, the man becomes tight in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and the man sees God everywhere and is always happy. By these three sutras, Narada has tried to tell us the nature of Amrita in concrete light. Then we can understand what is that Amrita. Now, we come to the seventh sutra. Sa na kamayamana nirodha rupatvat. Two things we notice here. Sa means the same bhakti which is describing, about which he told Brahma Prema Rupa, about which he told Amrita Swarupa, about the same bhakti is telling. What he is telling? Two things. One reason, one effect. Na kamayamana. The real bhakti is never mixed with worldly desires. Then real bhakti is never mixed with desires. Why? Nirodha Rupatva. You understand the Rupa there? Parama Prema Rup. And now he says it is Nirodha Rupa. Obverse and reverse of the same coin, I would say. The coin is made of silver. One side is the Ashoka pillar. The other side, 1 rupee or 5 rupees is written. If only one side, then it is a counterfeit coin. So, Narada feels it essential to complete his description by telling us what is the other side of it. What is this Nirodha? By the hearing this word, we may feel something like suppression or repression. No. He will explain that Nirodha afterwards, but if he experiences the inward pull, his outgoing tendencies are stopped. Clear? Understood? Automatic result. This is all from the very nature of God, these are coming. If God is our innermost reality and is attracting us, pulling us inside, that is what we are experiencing, then our mind will refuse to go outside. That is Nirodha. And therefore, no desires in him. Desires make us go outside. Desires are to enjoy some object. That means going outside our real nature. And the second definition of bhakti, if you like to call it, the same bhakti is Narada defined as Parama Prema Rupa Asmin. So the word Asmin is very important. If there is a self-centeredness, if we are being pulled inside by God, our outgoing vrittis will stop. They cannot function. And therefore, no desires. So two words is using na kamayamana. This word kamayaman in Sanskrit is called present participle. That means going along with, existing along with. It does not exist along with desires. The real bhakti, now you find all our so-called bhaktis in the world, I want this and I want that. Can there be real bhaktis? Swami Vivekananda described that people have made God as a chairman of the municipality. We have constructed a house. Please give us electric connection. Please give us water connection. Please give us gas. So they are continuously seeking something from God. That means they do not love God. They make God as an instrument in fulfilling some desires of theirs. How can that be real bhakti? And so, na kamayamana, it cannot exist with desires because this tvat is called in Sanskrit the Panchami Vibhakti which tells hetu. Why no kamayamana? Because it is of the form of nirodha. Because it is of the form of checking the outgoing tendency of the mind. So that completes the definition of bhakti. Amrita is the swarupa. Inside pull is one side. Check from outside is the other side. Now, a big difficulty arises. Definition is all, but a big difficulty arises. As soon as we hear this word nirodha, in our mind, it is either suppression or repression. That is the only thing we know about nirodha. What is the difference? Suppression is a conscious activity to suppress those desires which you do not want. Repression is an unconscious or subconscious attempt to check the desires. That is the difference. But both meaning applying our will, conscious or subconscious, to check the desires. And immediately we remember certain wrong things. We remember Sigmund Freud. He has said that all the diseases a man gets is due to suppression of desires. Suppression or repression of desires leads to different diseases, sickness in life. And he identified this sickness only as drag for lust. From whom he got the theory? He was a military doctor. So his patients were all abnormal, having got cut hands or feet, their desires are unfulfilled. So examining these Vikruta, deceased people, he made his theory. He had never seen even a normal man, what to speak of a Mahapurush. Now his own disciple, Dr. Jung, or Jung, whatever you call it, Jung, they spell it, believed in him first. He came across a case, a lady, and he found that definitely something in suppressed her. But he found that it is not lust. What could be suppressed? He thought perhaps her religious faculty is suppressed. Anti the other side. Now to verify his theory, he knew some nunnery, some Christian mud for ladies. And he approached the head and said, can you keep this girl with you for some days, 6 months? I want to make some observations. They said, fine. And when she went to that mud, within a week her disease was gone. And so Jung found his new theory. Due to suppression, disease may come, but this suppression is not only about lust. The suppression can be about the religious instinct in man. In that nun's place, she got full scope to express that desire towards religion, and her disease was gone. But we are so badly influenced by Freud today that everywhere we think this. So, even in the ancient times, when Narada is telling it is of the nature of Nirodha, such ideas come to the mind. And so Narada has to tell us what Nirodha is. And that he takes up in Sutra 8. What is the nature of Nirodha? He has used 3 different words for me, explaining that Nirodha. In the 8th Sutra only 1, and in the 9th Sutra 2 more. Nirodhastu. His 2 has come again. 2 has come again. That means he understands our wrong understanding. He says Nirodha, by hearing Nirodha, don't think it is suppression or repression. I will tell you something different. So Nirodhastu, what the Nirodha is? Loka Veda Vyapara Nyasaha. Loka Vyapara, Veda Vyapara Nyasaha. Vyapar does not mean business. Vyapar means any movement. Any movement. Loka Vyapar means our secular life, as we call it. Our secular work, as we call it. Our secular actions, as we call them. And Veda Vyapar means, not we are going to study Veda. Veda Vyapar means our sadhana. Our activity according to Narad Bhakti. Our activity according to what the Shastras prescribe to us, that is called Veda Vyapar. Loka Vyapar, our worldly activities, Veda Vyapar, our sadhana, Nyasa. Now Nyasa has 2 meaning, opposite meanings. Both will finally mean the same thing. Nyasa means throwing away. From that word only this sannyasa word has come. Samyak nyasa, totally throwing away. And the other meaning of the word nasa, if you remember, Shila Nyas, Nyasa means rightly keeping. Properly keeping is Nyasa. Throwing away is Nyasa. Properly keeping is Nyasa. How these meanings will combine? If we throw away from our life or if we keep things in God. If our mind is kept in God, it is like throwing away. The mind is not mine. That is the throwing away. Throwing away means the mind is not mine. The mind belongs to God. So if we keep our mind in God, it is keeping as well as throwing away. And what we are keeping in God? All our secular activities. That means I am not the doer of this activity. God is the doer. I am not doing this activity for myself. I am doing it for the sake of God. Even the objects which I handle are nothing but forms of God. I will give you an example again from Holy Mother's teachings. Not in the books, huh? This I have heard from my Guruji. He was a college student then. And he was reading, helping in the proofreading in Udbodhan office. You know, Udbodhan office, upper floor mother used to stay, ground floor was the publication department, Bengali publication department of Ramakrishna Mission, popularly known as Udbodhan office because Udbodhan was the monthly being published. And Shuddhananda Swamiji, Swamiji's disciple, was translating Swamiji's lectures on Jnana Yoga in Bengali and they were being published in the book form. Now for this, all of you must be knowing that book cannot be printed at one stroke. Proofreading is something essential, even in the days of computer. Computer sometimes makes more mistake than the hand composition because garbage in, garbage out. So Shuddhan Swamiji asked this boy, seeing a brilliant college boy, will you please help in our proofreading? He said yes. Now these two things are separate in his life. Going to Holy Mother for spiritual instructions and doing this as a good work, proofreading. He did not tell it to the Holy Mother, but she came to know. So one day when he came for proofreading, there was a message that when the boy comes for proofreading, ask him to meet me. He was very happy that mother has called me. He went to the mother. Mother, you called me? She said, yes. I heard that you are proofreading these days. He said, yes, ma'am. She said, shall I teach you how to read proofs? He was very curious and very happy also. Mother is teaching him how to read proofs. He knew what is happening. So she told him, first, my boy, you should know, remember, that every word spoken by Naren, in every word spoken by Naren, Shri Ram Krishna is present himself. That is the first thing. We call it deification of the object. Anyway. And second thing, as you come, you should not abruptly start proofreading. Sit calm. See in your heart Shri Ram Krishna. Pray to him, Lord, make me your instrument. And then you start proofreading. And in every work, there are pauses in between. So in your work also, you will get some pause. Immediately, let the mind not go either here and there. Let you see your heart, Shri Ram Krishna is sitting there, and then you continue. And when you finish your work, don't abruptly leave and go to your home. No. You sit quiet, see Shri Ram Krishna in your heart, and the work you did that day, give it to him. The fruits of the work of that day, give it to him, and yourself you give to him, and then thinking of him, slowly go to your house. This is how Holy Mother taught proofreading to my Guruji. One of my Swamis used to say, this is not true about proofreading only. This is true about everything. Especially talking to ladies, he used to say, cooking, making chapatis. God is there in that rolling pin. God is there in that slab. God is there in the atta. And God is there in the people who will eat the rotis. This should be your consciousness. So this is applicable to everything. This is called dedication of secular activities to God. Similarly, spiritual activities. If you think I do sadhana, your sadhana is spoiled that moment. It is God who has made you sadhak. It is God who is doing sadhana. It is God who is appearing as you. It is God is appearing as your sadhana. I am not doing sadhana. God is making me do it. God is doing it through me. If this be your spirit, this is called dedication to God of these spiritual activities. No, is it not throwing away also? That means you have detached them from yourself. Not I but thou. So it is throwing away in one sense, keeping rightly in another sense. This is nirodha, not suppression or repression. If every activity of yours, secular or spiritual, dedicated to God, then no outside going tendency will remain in you. And then in the next sutra, he adds two more implications of this nirodha, or the meaning of the word nirodha. Tasmin ananyata tad virodhishu udasinata cha. They are very delicate matter, though there is a lot of time in hand. Anyway, if you have any question, please, because my mind is not ready to proceed to the next sutra. If you have no question and if I have to fill my time, anyway, any question, please?
Swamiji, I have one question.
Yes.
You explained about intoxication and then stabda and atmaram.
Atmaram. Uh-huh.
Are these sequential, or is it just something that comes to the
Yes.
sequential, Swamiji?
Yes.
Okay.
So, the first experience of that Amrita, first experience is that it makes us intoxicated. We lose our sense of balance in the worldly sense. We cannot do. People will tell us, control yourself, behave like us. Why you are behaving strangely? But we cannot. Sri Ramakrishna has described this very beautifully. He has compared intoxication comes from what? Drugs. You understand that? From wine. So he says, if you are drunk a little, you may control yourself. But if you are drunk up to neck, you cannot control yourself. You have seen how the inebriated people walk. If they want to put their foot here, it goes to the other side. Sri Ramakrishna was described by his onlookers. He is coming, he has gone to a devotee whose house is inside the lane. So the horse carriage had to stop outside and he had walked. Now he's coming back through that lane. People around are saying, see what intoxicated this man is. He's not able to put his food properly. People are helping him to come. There is another example. He went to the Kali temple. Holy Mother, seeing it as a good opportunity, she entered his room and was busy cleaning that room. Now her back was to the door. Sri Ramakrishna suddenly came back, staggering, and pushed her and said, am I intoxicated? Holy Mother said, why will you be intoxicated? He said, then why I am not able to put my feet properly? She said in Bengali, Tumi kalir bhava amrita khecho. You are drunk the intoxicating wine of Mother Kali's devotion. Sri Ramakrishna said, she knows, she knows. She knows everything. Nothing is that she does not know. Sri Ramakrishna said, correct, correct, correct. So, the first sequence will always be inebriation as if you are drunk wine. But it will lead to what? It will lead to absolute identification. In that will not feel intoxication. Sri Ramakrishna is feeling intoxication on two sides, remember. Before going to Nirvikal Samadhi and after Nirvikal Samadhi also. After intoxication, now the pull still continue. The joy, the amruta, the centripetal force is continuing. And so it has sucked you in fully. Then the signs of intoxication will vanish. And you will be tied. That is what Holy Mother told me. If seeing and feeling gives you intoxication, but these disciples of his, Sardan Swami and others, after seeing and hearing, they have become tight. That means they have entered miracle samadhi. So this is the sequence. And the third is what happens after miracle samadhi. A man does not remain in that state always mentally, but the knowledge and joy which he has received, they will not go, they will be expressed in a different form. And that also I described in Holy Mother's language, that Sri Ramakrishna was never bereft of joy. With boys and girls of 5 years of age, his devotee Master Mashe, from his house, 2 girls have come, age 7 or 8. And he is joking with them. And he says, your husband has come. You have to go. Like that, he is cracking jokes with them. And he is happy. For him, no wife, no husband, God in every form. So he can do that also. And in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he is with the young men, Swami Vivekananda's age. And Master Masha, page after page, he has described is merrymaking with them. At no place he has described what he is talking. He cannot. It is not for public consumption. But we know he is cracking slang jokes with them. Because for him, everything is God. And this his dramatist devotee, Girish Babu, comes and utters some slang words, and Sri Ramakrishna enters Samadhi. Because for him, joy is only one, the joy of God. All our joys are the distorted reflections, shadows, or images of that joy. Joy is only one, the Amrita. Joy is only one, the joy of one without a second. Our joys are distorted reflections of that joy. But for him, every reflection reminds him of the reality. So, Atma Rama Bhavati means he is finding joy in his own self, which he sees everywhere. His own self in himself, his own self in everybody, and he is happy, and you may say, like enjoying, he is not enjoying, but he is happy in every situation because he sees the same self in all. Thank you for the question. Because I told all these things, I could repeat it with some examples. So the sequence is that intoxicated, steady or tight, and afterward joy everywhere in life. The joy, the life becomes filled with joy. That is what is this sixth sutra. Okay? I remind you again, I talked of an English translation of Narad Bhakti Sutra, except for 2 or 3 sutras. I will tell later on when we come to that. His translation is best, and that PDF has been available. One of my friends, one of the listeners, one Pradeep from Bangalore has found out. And he has sent me, he has put it on the chat also. And below that, I have written that this is the PDF of that book. So those who are interested in a good English translation of Narad Bhakti Sutra, I do not recommend any other book. This is the best book. So you can avail of that by opening that link. Om Jayati Jagati Mayam Yasya Kaya Davaste Vachana Rachanam Ekam Kevalam Chakalaya Dhrupadamapi Yato Yakrupato Dhruvoyam Sakala Kushala Patram Brahmaputram Natosmi. ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत। श्री राम कृष्ण अर्पण।